Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Brain Smart Start with me, Luke. I know I wasn't here yesterday. I was taking care of some stuff, but now I'm back for you guys, and I'm ready to get back into the motions with you guys. Okay, so let's get started. And ready, Wildcats? Two, one, two, three, and we're all in this together. We are wow, you and me, united and free. We are all in this together. We are wow, you and me, united and free. We are all in this together. We are wow. Good job, everybody. Again, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy we're back, or at least that I'm back with you guys, so we can keep going with this stuff. Okay, so let's move right into our stretching for today. Okay, ready, guys? So as we usually do, I don't know if you guys did something different yesterday with the other person, but I will tell you that we're gonna go back to what we were doing before. Okay, so ready? You're gonna take your right arm, you're gonna stretch it over your left one, and we're gonna count to. Let's do 15. Let's do 15. Yeah. Ready? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. Okay, now the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. Okay, wiggle it out. Now you're going to take your arm. You're going to push it down, right? Not too hard so you don't hurt yourself. And we're going to count 15. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. All right, next one. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. Good job. Okay, ready? We're going to stretch backwards like this. And ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, we're going to go down like this. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. Okay, let's do the other one. Like this, ready? Again, not too hard so you don't hurt yourself. Just like gently enough to where you can feel the stretch right here, guys. Okay, ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good job. Okay, again. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, very good job, guys. Good job stretching out the arms. Okay, let's do some neck stretches. These we'll do for 10 seconds. So, ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now we're going to do the rotators. Ready? So 5 one way, 5 the other way. Okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good job. Ready? The other side now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good job. Make sure you feel it all around here. Okay, let's do some shoulder shrugs, right? It doesn't matter what's going on. It's just it's all good, right? Ready? Okay, so let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Very good job. Okay, we're going to stretch our backs backwards, and then we're going to touch your toes. We're going to do right foot and left foot, and then we'll be done, okay? All right, ready, and 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. And we're going to touch our toes. Ready? I know you can't see me fully, but you know what I'm doing. You guys do the same at home, okay? All right, toes. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Okay, now we're going to go to the right foot. So spread your legs and go to the right foot. Ready? 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, very, very good job. Shake everything out. Your legs too. Feel relaxed and stretched out, right? Ready to continue on. Okay, so the ASL words we had done for Monday, we're going to continue today. Okay, so let's review, okay, and you guys can try at home. And then on Friday, we're going to have a little test to see if you guys remember the words for the week, okay? Okay, so first word, again, is spring. So spring, like the season. You got your hand like this, and a flower emerges, right? That is the sign for spring. Again, spring. Doesn't have to be so slowly. It can be fast spring. If you're talking really fast and you're saying spring, that's okay, as long as that's the motion you do, right? And it's also the sign for flower. So if you're ever trying to sign flower, it's the same sign. Okay? Hot, right? This can refer to temperature outside, or it could also refer to food that you're eating, right? Or a surface that is hot that you touch, right? You ever burn yourself on the stove or on something really hot, you would go hot, right? It's like you're throwing something out of your mouth. It's supposed to reference or be talking about something that is really spicy or really hot when you eat it, but that applies to every form of the word hot. Okay, so hot, 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 okay? All right, sun, right? The sun is hot. So you could be like the sun, right? That's a sign for sun. The sun is hot, right? The sun is hot, right? Okay. Swimming, you guys know this one pretty well. It's pretty easy to assume, but swimming, right? You could just be, I was swimming, right? Or you could be like, I was swimming for my life. Or you could just, you know, casually, I was swimming, right? Doesn't have to be too crazy. Depends on your tone of I guess, of the story. But for the most part, as long as you're doing this, they're going to understand what you're trying to sign. Okay, school. School is like this, right? So this is a sign for school. It's kind of like two, like almost claws, not claws like this, but kind of, right? And you just clap your palms together, okay? Break. Again, not in the form of breaking something, but like well, in this case, a spring break, right? Break. Kind of like Spock's come in peace, but you just karate chop that thing down the middle. I don't know why I missed, because I'm not looking. Break. Okay? So you could do spring break, right? Spring break. Okay? Very good job, guys. I appreciate your participation at home. Even though I can't see you, I'm assuming that you're participating, okay? So I hope you are, because if not, well, I mean, you're watching this video for no reason, right? So let's try and participate. Let's try and get our brains going and making sure that we're staying active, okay? Okay, let's move on to our breathing for today. We're gonna do balloon breathing, okay? So again, you're gonna take your hands and fingers, you're gonna cross them like that, put them on top of your head, and when you breathe in, you're gonna inflate. Just like that. And then breathe out and deflate. Some people, when they're deflating, like to make a funny noise, kind of like a balloon makes. So you could do breathe in and breathe out. If you'd like to do that, it makes you feel better, you can do that as well. Okay, so guys, we're going to do that 3 times, and then the 3rd time is going to be silent, okay? So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. One more time. Good job. That should help you feel more relaxed, more at peace. If you have something going on in your life, you know, something drastic, something very scary, like I did, that definitely helps to breathe. Because if you breathe and you slow your heart rate down, you definitely feel more relaxed, even if the situation is very, very crazy. So just try and practice that if you're feeling too anxious at home, and you might feel a little better. At least for me it did. So I hope it can do the same for you. Okay, so guys, let's move on to our birthday celebration for today. We have Michelle T. Okay, so happy birthday, Michelle, if you're watching this. We love you, and we hope that you have an amazing day at home and that you're enjoying some great cake if you can eat that. If not, that you're enjoying yourself in any way, shape, or form, okay? Again, we love you. Let's sing happy birthday to Michelle. Ready, guys, all of you? And 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Hey, happy birthday to you. Hey, happy birthday, dear Michelle T. Happy birthday to you. All right, Michelle, again, we love you. We hope you have a great day. Okay, so let's move on to our commitment for today. So our commitment for today is or for the rest of the week, is to help a friend. So what does that mean? Well, if you're at home, if you're at a group home, you can, help your friends in getting them something to drink, right? Or getting them something to eat. If they ask you for help on something like maybe a puzzle they're doing, you can sit down with them and do it, with them. And basically just being a helping hand, right? You want to be able to assist or help those who are asking for it, right? Even if you're at your parents' house, right? If they ask you to clean your room, or if they ask you to do the dishes, that's something you can help them with, right? Or even maybe doing it before they even ask you. That would make them really happy, I promise. So that's how you can help a friend today, guys. So let's try and do that out of the kindness of our own hearts. Even if we're feeling a little upset, or antsy, or anxious, or scared, we can still help these people, right? There's no excuse not to help people. Although if you are in need of help, it is not wrong to ask at all, okay? So just remember, if you need help, you can ask, okay? Okay, let's move on to our current events for today. So, let's go global first. So we have Sesame Street, right? The program on PBS has made a new version just for the Middle East. So I don't know if you guys know right now, but amongst all of this crazy pandemic virus talk we have going on, the Middle East has been suffering because they are in the middle of a big war. And obviously, we don't pay attention too much to that because we are here in America and we tend to forget about other things that aren't involved with us. But if you were to consider, all the feelings of the other people around the world, and it's not just about us, you might think about these things, right? So the Sesame Street has developed a brand new form of, recording this show in order to make sure that they feel like it speaks to them specifically, right? So it's not made in the languages they speak. It's probably, really coinciding with the culture that they practice over there in the Middle East. Basically, they're being very friendly to all of their the things that they do and believe, right? So that's something to consider as a person, right? Just make sure that you're respecting everybody and their beliefs, even if you don't agree, because at the end of the day, yelling at people doesn't change anybody's mind. So let's move on. National Geographic, or Nat Geo, as some of you might know, has been developing a learn-at-home system, right? So this is, I believe, globally. Anybody can access it, and it's free, and no username is required or anything like that. And it's for K through 12th, right? So if you know anybody who's stuck at home that is, from the ages of 5 to 17, or maybe more, depending on who you are, you will be able to use these resources or these different helpful tools at home so that you can potentially learn something at home. Okay, and then lastly, for the news today, we have in Mexico, which they are actually not, but I believe not suffering as much as we are in the States with the pandemic or the virus. However, they have other things to worry about, as they always have. So they have now been printing a lot of 3D houses, or 3D printing houses in Mexico City. So that's really cool because a lot of people who didn't have homes before now are able to have homes, guys. This is a really big deal because homelessness is a big deal, obviously. And for people to be able to live and not have to suffer on the streets is something that we really should be happy about. So let's make sure that we are wishing all of those people well and that we are keeping them in our thoughts. And if you pray, in your prayers. Okay? All right. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our daily meditation. Okay? So again, when I snap my fingers, it's going to transition into the screen for the meditation. And you guys are going to do meditation for about 13 minutes or so. And then after that, we're going to return here. We're going to give you guys some final words, and then we're going to end after that. Okay, guys? So.
Hi, I'm Andrew Johnson. Take some time now to make sure that you're sitting comfortably. Put your feet on the floor. Put your hands on your lap. Take a nice gentle deep breath in and out. And just allow your eyes to close. Just allow your eyes to gently close. Take your mind on a little journey, down through your body, down through your legs, down into your feet, and become aware of the weight of your feet on the floor. And allow the muscles of your feet to relax. Now you can give them a squeeze and let go, or you can simply just imagine them softening and loosening. Whatever way you want to do it, the muscles of your feet are starting to go limp and soft and slack. Allow the feet to relax. Up now into the calves. Just doing the same thing once again. relaxing the muscles in your calves, and up through your knees into the thighs, letting your thigh muscles switch off, allowing them to become limp and slack. Up now into the stomach, releasing and relaxing your stomach muscles. Now the muscles of your chest, and all the way down your back, all the way down your sides, limp and soft and slack and relaxed. Up into your neck now, letting the muscles around and behind your neck soften and loosen, limp and slack. And down into the shoulders. Imagine your shoulders dropping, softening, limp and slack. And follow the relaxation down through your arms, relaxing, down through the elbows, down through the wrists, down into the hands and fingers and thumbs, limp and soft and slack and relaxed. Now loosen your jaw, wiggle it from side to side. Relax your mouth and your tongue. Relax the cheeks and the little muscles around your eyes. You can even relax your forehead and your scalp. So from the top of your head right down to your fingertips, right down to your feet and toes, the muscles are soft and limp and slack. As your muscles relax, very soon now they're going to start feeling a little heavier. This heavy feeling starts when muscles begin to relax. So do a quick scan down across your body now and notice which part of your body is starting to feel a little more relaxed, a little heavier, a little heavier. Notice which part is becoming a little heavier, and welcome and increase that heaviness. Imagine it increasing. And now imagine your entire body becoming heavier, as if it's wanting to sink down deeper and deeper into the chair. Just let your body go, heavier and heavier, heavier and heavier. Now become aware of your breathing, in and out, in and out. Notice the flow in and down into your lungs, and back up and out. Notice the difference in temperature between the in-breath and the out-breath. And if it feels comfortable for you, if it feels natural, take your breathing a little deeper down within you, right down into the stomach. Let your stomach rise and fall as you breathe in and out. And And notice how, as you breathe out, it's as if you're relaxing a little more. As if all the muscles in your body are loosening and relaxing just a little more as you breathe out. Spend a few moments now allowing each out breath to take you a little deeper and deeper relaxed. In a few moments, you'll hear me count down from 10 to 1. And with each descending number between 10 and 1, just allow yourself to relax a little more. Maybe even relaxing 1/10 deeper with each slow descending number. Each descending number helps you to drift a little deeper, a little heavier, a little more comfortable too. So ready. 10. 9. Deeper and deeper, relaxed. 8. 7. Drifting down. 6. Deeper and deeper. 5. 4. Doing wonderfully. 3. 2. And 1. All the way down. Deep down relaxed. Heavy. Comfortable. Relaxed. And now notice how easy that has become. How easy the relaxation has been. How simple. How easy. How relaxed. Even in this short time, your breathing has got slower. And because of this short relaxation afterwards, your mind is calmer and clearer. You have greater concentration. Your nerves are stronger and steadier. And your body remains more relaxed. And you are so much more relaxed with practice. More relaxed not only in your body, but more relaxed about yourself. If your mind wanders off, just drift back to your breathing. And allow each exhalation, each out-breath to take you deeper and deeper relaxed. In a few moments, you'll hear me count slowly from 1 to 10. As I count up from 1 to 10, you're becoming more alive, more awake, more energized, more alert. At 5, wiggle your fingers and toes. At 8, gently open your eyes, and at 10, you're fully back, wide awake, rested and relaxed, bringing back a lovely sense of happiness, relaxation, feeling refreshed and recharged. So at 5, wiggle your fingers and toes. At 8, gently open your eyes. And at 10, fully back, rested, refreshed and relaxed. So ready. 1, 2, 3, coming back up. 4, 5, wiggle your fingers and toes, coming back up, that's right. 6, 7, 8, eyes gently open. Eyes gently open. 9, 10, fully back, fully awake, fully aware. And just have a big, deep breath and a nice gentle stretch. Fully awake.
And we are back. Okay, guys, so that basically concludes our time today. But in the meantime, I will tell you guys who is coming next and what you guys can expect for the rest of the day. Okay, so after Brain Smart Start, you're gonna have technology. You're gonna have a break after that, right? A little break, so you can eat a snack. You know, you can go get some water. Whatever you want to do for those little time, that little time that you have. Then you're gonna come back. We're gonna have CBE, right? Then we're gonna have story time with CBE after that. Followed by that, you're gonna have lunch, right? So you're gonna have a long time. You can eat your big meals. Maybe you can, talk to a friend about what you've been learning, right? After that, you're gonna have art, and then finally, you're gonna have your rights. And review of what's coming tomorrow. Okay, guys? So make sure that you're paying attention and that you are staying in tune with what we're trying to teach you guys, okay? So with that being said, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Hello guys, this is Carlos, this is my water bottle, and this is a giant wave! Hello guys, welcome back to class number 4 of STEM class. Today we're gonna keep talking about money. We're gonna keep working on our money skills. But first, the topic for today is water. Why? Well, we're staying at home right now, and I really encourage you to stay at home and wash your hands a lot. Water is gonna be really important for us right now. We needed to wash our hands, we needed to wash our clothes, we needed to wash our food. We use water for everything. And the thing is that sometimes we don't even notice it. So today we're gonna talk about how important and why the water is so important. The first things that we need to know is that there is a lot of water within our world. That doesn't mean that we can drink them all. Okay, there's a specific water that we can drink and some other waters that we cannot drink, but they are all water. Of course, we're gonna see the difference here and learn about it. Water has multiple uses. We use water every day in our houses, in our school, in the office, everywhere. But what is water? What is the definition? Well, water is a clear, thin liquid that has no color, no taste when it's pure. But how much water we find here on Earth? Well, about 71% of Earth's surface is covered in water. And the oceans contain about 96.5% of all Earth's water. Water also exists in the air as water vapor, in rivers and also in lakes, in the ice caps, right on the North Pole, on the South Pole, and the glaciers, in the soil as soil moistures, under the ground, even in you, even in me, inside of our bodies. Water is one of the elements that humans need to live. Well, not only humans, pretty much every single life form on the earth needs water to keep living. Yes, we need food. Yes, we need air. Actually, air, it's really important, guys, like extremely important. But water also, it's one of the things that we really need every single day. In fact, the expert believe that a person can live without water for up to 3 days. After 3 days without drinking any water, you will have to experience a lot of really difficult things. But we're gonna see more about that later. But where does all the water on Earth come from? Why we never run out of water here? Well, I think this video is gonna explain it better. Run the video.
When you're thirsty, nothing is better than a nice cool drink of water. Oh, and it looks like my plant could use a drink of water too. Did you ever stop to think about where our water comes from? Sure, when you get a drink of water, it might come from a faucet or a bottle. And I get my flower here water from a watering can. But you know what? The water that comes out of the faucet and the watering can may once have been part of a cloud, or a snowflake, or even the ocean. Awesome, right? And it's because of something called the water cycle. Now, a cycle is a set of steps that repeat over and over. When you get to the last step in a cycle, you go back to the beginning and go through the steps again. For example, every year there are 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And when winter's over, it's time for spring again. We go back to the beginning of the cycle. In the water cycle, all of the water on Earth goes through a set of steps that repeat over and over. Let's start with a step in our water cycle where we open up our umbrellas. That's right, Squeaks, rain. Rain is water that falls from the sky. Some rainwater soaks into the ground, but a lot of it flows into little creeks and streams and then ends up in rivers, lakes, and eventually the ocean. And then something really interesting happens. Some of this water changes. You might have noticed that after it rains, some water is left on the ground, like in puddles that you can jump in. But what happens to all that water? It seems like it's there one day, but then after a little while, it's gone. Well, that water didn't just disappear. When the sun comes out and the ground gets warm, water can change into a different form. We call this form water vapor. And water vapor is a gas. The air we breathe, it's a bunch of different gases mixed together. And like the gases that make up air, you can't see water vapor gas. When the sun shines on rivers, lakes, and oceans, some of the water changes into water vapor. And then the water vapor goes up high, very high up into the sky. And it gets pretty cold up there. So when the water vapor gets high enough, it starts to get cool. And as water vapor cools down, it changes back into little drops of liquid water. You can actually see water vapor change into water drops right at home. All you need is a mirror or window and your mouth. Put your face close to the mirror or window. Open your mouth nice and wide and breathe out. What happens? The glass gets foggy. That's because there's water vapor in your warm breath. And when the water vapor in your breath touches the cool glass, it changes into teeny tiny droplets. A lot of the droplets together make the glass look cloudy. And up in the sky, a lot of water droplets together make clouds. When there's a lot of water in a cloud, the cloud starts to get darker. White fluffy clouds start to turn gray. And as the clouds get grayer, the water in them gets heavier. When the water gets too heavy, it falls right back out of the clouds as rain. And rain is where we started in the cycle. We made it all the way back to the beginning. Now the water cycle can start all over again. All the water on our great big Earth goes through this same cycle over and over. It falls to the ground as rain or snow, and soon the water ends up in a river, lake, or ocean. From there, it heats up and turns into vapor. And when the vapor rises into the sky and cools off, it comes right back down. So the water that you drink and the water that's in my watering can right now might once have been part of a raindrop that fell into the ocean on the other side of the world. Think about that the next time you take a drink. Thanks for joining us on SciShow Kids. Do you have a question about the weather or anything else? Ask a grown-up to help you. Leave a comment below or send us an email to kids@thescishow.com. And we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
As you saw in the video, the water cycle is what keeps us from running out of water on Earth. It's really important, but also it's important that we do our part. We have to take care of water. If you see running water, turn it off. If you're not using some water, well, put it away, but you have to save as much water as you can. Remember, even though the Earth is full of water, there is only a really little tiny part of that water that we can actually drink. We cannot drink salty water. It tastes really bad, and it's also dehydrate you, and that is not good for your body. We have to drink fresh water, and the fresh water that we have is actually just super little compared to the amount of any other water that we find on Earth. So that makes me ask a question. Where is all that water that we can actually drink? Where we can find more water? Let's see this. So before we finish the class about water, let's talk about one more thing. How much water should I drink every day? Well, the doctor says that you should drink at least 1.5 liters of water. That is to stay hydrated. So for you to know how much is 1.5 liters, let's put it in simple terms. If you drink 8 cups of water every day, that should be good for your body. So now I'll give you 1 minute to get a paper and a pencil or a pen, because I'm gonna put right here some questions for you. So time start now. Are you guys ready? I'll give you 5 minutes to work with these questions. So pay attention and do your best. After this, we're gonna work on our third part of our money skill class. Get ready. How was it? Did you answer every question? I'm pretty sure that you did, guys. You did a great job. Now, we're gonna keep working on our money skill class. This is the part number 3. We have been working on these for 3 classes and we have learned how to counting money and we also learned about money history. Today, we're not gonna count only bills, but coins. So I have a video that will explain it for you. Pay close attention and play the video as many times as you need to understand it completely. Okay? I know you can do a great job. Pay attention to the video.
Hi, my name is Kylie and welcome to Counting Money 2, Counting Coins. In this video, you will learn to count coins so that when you empty your piggy bank, you'll know how much money you have in all. Before watching this video, be sure you've understood the value of coins in the video titled Counting Money 1, the Value of Money, then come back to this one. You know that coins are small metal pieces of money. You also know that in the United States we have coins that represent 1 cent or 1 penny, 5 cents or a nickel, 10 cents or a dime, and 25 cents or a quarter. When they're all mixed into a wallet, it might seem tricky to know how much money you have. But I'll show you how to count your coins. Let's go! Pennies equal 1 cent. But there are many pennies here. It's as easy to count pennies as it is to count objects because there is a 1-to-1 value. So, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 pennies, so we say there are 12 cents. The correct way to represent money is through the decimal system. In video 1, we simply wrote 12 cents like this. But anytime we are counting, adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing money, we should write it as a decimal or in a dollar notation, like this. With the 1 in the tens place and the 2 in the hundredths place. And we drop the cent symbol and add a dollar sign at the front of the decimal number. This symbol tells us we're talking about money. We use the decimal system because cent is a dollar divided into 100 parts. Remember that cent is Latin for 100. Since there are no dollars or whole amounts, we place a 0 in the ones place, and the decimal point separates the dollars from the cents. If you want to learn more about decimals, be sure to watch our videos. Next, let's count nickels. Be careful! We can't count nickels as we'd count pennies because nickels are worth 5 cents each. This means we'll need to count by fives. Let's do it. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. We have 35 cents. But did you know that we can use a shortcut to count nickels? If you know how to multiply, we can count the number of nickels you have in all and multiply that by 5, since nickels are worth 5 cents. Since we have 7 nickels, we can multiply that by 5 and we get 35 cents. We're right. Just like nickels, we need to count dimes differently from pennies because dimes are worth 10 cents each. This time, we'll count by tens. You got it. Let's count. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. We have 70 cents. Let's try the shortcut by multiplying the number of dimes, 7, by the amount of a dime, 10. This gives us 70 cents. Yes! When adding quarters, what do you think we'll need to count by? If you said by 25, you're correct. Let's count these quarters. 25, 50, 75. We have 75 cents. And using the shortcut, if we have 3 quarters and multiply that by the value 25, 3 times 25 equals 75 cents. You can also count coins when they're all mixed up, like this. The easiest way to count coins is to place coins of the same value together first. So, quarters with quarters, dimes with dimes, nickels with nickels, and pennies with pennies. Next, begin counting with the coins of a greater value. In this case, it's quarters. We have 2 quarters for a total of 50 cents. 4 dimes, so that's 40 cents, 2 nickels, making that 10 cents, and 3 pennies, or 3 cents. Let's add all that up. 50 plus 40 is 90, plus 10 cents is 100, but we know 100 cents is equal to $1, so that's $1 plus 3 cents is a total of $1.03. Now, we place the dollar sign in front of this amount and we're done. You now know how to count all those coins that you have in your piggy bank. What will you do with all those coins? Will you spend them or will you save them to buy something in the future? No matter what you do with your money, you can test your skills by counting money on our fun online games and quizzes. And remember to always be clever. Cha-ching!
Hey, hey.
Okay guys, so now I'm gonna put right here some exercises for you to do. Don't worry, take as much time as you need. In fact, you're gonna have 30 minutes to do it. So you have more than enough time to complete them. Take a piece of paper, take a pen and a pencil, copy your exercises, and do your best job. Okay? I hope you enjoyed the class, guys. This was amazing to be with you again. I'll see you next. Bye!
welcome to our new lesson on money skills. I know you guys are learning money skills in a lot of different ways, but this is really important because as adults, we need to know how to use our money. And as a job coach, as one of your job coaches, I want to make sure you guys are ready so that when we put you out and connect you to new opportunities out in the community, I want to know that you guys will be safe in how you use your money, that you guys will learn from this, and that you'll be able to grow and make new changes in your life and do things that make you guys happy. So a big part of that in adulthood is knowing how to use your money wisely. And it's not an easy thing to learn, so don't be frustrated if you think it's difficult. We all think it's difficult. It's hard for all of us. And so little by little, as we get used to this and as we keep learning about money skills, you guys will feel more comfortable, and I will keep learning too, so I will feel more comfortable with how to use our money wisely out in the community, and eventually how to save it and maybe buy something that's really important to you. Okay, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what we did when we were reading our story on spending. We're going to learn about all the bills and coins, what they look like, what they are, because in order to know how to spend your money, you need to really understand the difference between all the different bank notes. That's what they're called. And so we have bills and coins. That's what we talked about last time we did our reading. And so we're not going to go too deep into aspects about debit cards or credit cards yet. First and foremost, we're going to stick to the absolute basics and learn the differences between all the coins. For some of you, this might be a review. For others, we might need a little refresher. So just so that we're all in the same field, I'm going to just go over this basic review about money skills, and I hope you all enjoy it. Okay? And so, without further ado, we're going to be learning this with a book. The book is called What's It Worth? Fun with Coins and Bills. Okay? So, what do you buy? We use money every day. Money lets you buy things. What do you buy? Alright, so money includes coins and bills. They are all worth different amounts. So the coins here are the little round metal ones, and the bills are the paper ones. It says, okay, so now you guys try it. Search for money at home. Ask another adult, your guardian, your caretaker to help. Sort what you find. Put the coins in one pile. Put the bills in another pile. So if you guys want, you can stop right now and take a minute to go look around for money in your house. You can press pause. See what you can find. Maybe you have some money. Maybe we can bring it out to the table and you can look at it while we go over this lesson. It might help in learning a little bit of this if you can see the money in front of you. Okay? So again, we have bills and we have coins. So if you guys want to go look for some money now in your house, this is the moment. I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds. You can pause here and then get right back to the lesson. Alrighty then. So we're gonna keep going. It says our first lesson here is on coins. So coins are made of metal. They are worth cents. A penny is worth 1 cent. This is the lowest amount. So here we got we got 2 pennies actually. So in reality, 1 plus 1 is 2. So this is 2 cents. But each individual penny is worth 1 cent. Then we got nickels. Each nickel is worth 5 cents. So that's 5 different pennies if you want 1 nickel. And here we have 2 nickels. What's 5 plus 5? It's 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. Here we have dimes. Dimes are really, really small. They're the smallest ones. You can kind of see here how small they are next to a quarter. Even next to the penny, they're really small. And they're silver. This one is bronze or copper. Okay? And so the dime is 10 cents. 10. And there's 2 dimes here. What's 10 plus 10? Okay, so I don't have enough fingers for this, but 10 plus 10 is 20. Next we have quarters. Quarters are my personal favorite because if you're in a vending machine, you're gonna need quarters probably. Quarters are each worth 25 cents. They're some of the biggest coins that we have. We're also gonna talk a little about these, but we don't see these very often. These are our most common coins. These are the coins that you guys see on a regular basis. Again, each quarter is worth 25 cents. This might be a little hard, and once again, I don't have the fingers to count this all for you, but what is 25 plus 25? I'll give you guys a second to figure that one out. It's a little harder. Okay, so 25 plus 25 is 50. 50 cents is a $50. Okay, and speaking of $50, we have $50 right here. Like I said, you don't see these very often. They don't make very many $50, so people don't really have them in their wallets all the time. But if you go to the store and you give them a $50, they still need to accept it. You can take it to the bank too, and they can put it in your checking account. So a $50 is 50 cents. And here we have 2 $50. What's 50 plus 50? It's 100. So 50 cents plus 50 cents makes $1. And another really cool one here, which we also don't see very often, but this is pretty great if you have one. It's a dollar coin. So 1 coin is $1. It's the same. What about $2 coins? How much is that? That's $2. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next page. Bills. All right, sorry, there you go. Now you can see that a little better. So we have 6 different kinds of bills. Bills are made of paper. They are worth dollars. The smallest bill is worth $1. Okay, so since you guys can't see them too well, you might be able to recognize some of them just by the way that they look, because we see them a lot when we go to buy things. This one right here is a $1 bill. $1. So if you go to the vending machine, that's probably what you're gonna need. The next one is a $5 bill. $5. Next is our $10 bill. This one, $10. So here on their faces, we have George Washington, we have Abraham Lincoln, we have Alexander Hamilton. If you guys know about the musical, he's on our $10 bill. On our $20 bill, I believe, let's see, yep, we got Andrew Jackson. And something really cool that they recently did, let me see here. They designed a new $20 bill that has somebody named Harriet Tubman. And I'm sure we've learned about her here before, but it's pretty cool because it's the first woman to ever be on one of our dollars. Next here on our $50 bill, we have Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant was a president here in the United States. He was the 18th president. And finally, on our $100 bill, we have Benjamin Franklin, okay? So these are our different bills. And $100, the cool thing they made here, it has a little blue line in the middle. That's so that people know it's a real bill. And it's kind of shiny if you move it. It's kind of cool. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. So dollars and cents. Cents add up to $1. There are 100 cents in $1. How many of each coin would that be? Okay, so if you want to make if you want to get $1 with pennies, how many pennies do you need to make $1? So to make $1, we need 100 pennies. That's a lot of pennies. What about with a nickel? How many nickels do you need to make $1? So we need 20 nickels to make $1. That's not as bad. What about dimes? How many dimes do we need to make $1? We need 10 dimes to make $1. Let's go here. What about quarters? How many quarters do we need to make $1? We need 4 quarters to make $1. Then we have these two. These two are the ones that we don't use very often, but we still need to know how to use them in case we have one. These are half dollars. We have 2. 2 half dollars make $1. What about the dollar coin? How many dollar coins do we need to make $1? So we only need $1 coin to make $1. Why is that? Because the dollar coin is the same as the dollar. Okay? And pop quiz, do you guys remember who's on the dollar? We just went over that. So on our dollar bill, we have the first president of the United States ever. And his name is George Washington. Okay? I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay. Oops. Okay. So, smaller bills can be used together. They add up to larger amounts. So, for example, here we have 2 50 bills. So that's 2 different bills. Each one is worth $50. 50 plus 50 is how much? Okay, so 50 plus 50 is 100. And when we get a 100 bill, we get that really cool 100 bill with the shiny blue line down the middle. Do you guys remember who's on our $100 bill? That's Benjamin Franklin. Okay. Oh, here's another one up here. I missed it. There are 2 $10 bills. $10 founding father. Do you guys remember who's on the $10? He's a founding father of the United States. That is Alexander Hamilton. Two bills worth $10. It's a tongue twister. Is worth how much? It's worth $20. Who's on the $20 bill? Do we remember? I'm going to give you guys pop quizzes throughout so we can always remember. On our $20 bill is Andrew Jackson. Alright, so let's keep going. What about this one? That's a $5 bill. And there's 2. Who's on our $5 bill? That's Abraham Lincoln. And 2 $5 bills make how much? 5 plus 5? That's 10. So $10 bills. A $10 bill. Alrighty, so down here, this is worth $1. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $5 bills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of them are worth $1. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 how much? It's 5. So we have a $5 bill. And lastly here, this one's getting a little tricky. I know you guys probably can't see too well, so I'm going to tell you what's on here. We have one $20 bill, one $20 bill, another one, and one $10 bill. So 20 plus 20 plus 10. That one's a little difficult. Do you guys know how much that one is? I'm going to give you guys a second because that might be a little harder. All right, so that is $50. Who's on our $50 bill again? That's right, that is Ulysses S. Grant, another president of the United States. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. There you go. So, you can add coins and bills together. It's Maya's birthday. Her grandpa gave her some birthday money. He gave her bills and coins. How much does she have? So now it's our turn. We try it. You're going to write down the amount of each coin and bill. How many dollars are there? And how many cents? So, we're going to go over this together. If you guys want, I'm going to give you a sec if you want to try it out on your own. So you can pause here if you want, or we can just keep going. I'm going to do it with you. Okay? So, we have a $5 bill. Then we have a $1 bill. 1 plus 5 is how much? That's right, that is $6. So, Maya has $6 so far. But now we need to count her coins. So let's start with the big ones. I think it makes it a little bit easier. We have 1/4 here. There's 1/4. So we have 25 cents. She has 1 dime. How much is a dime? A dime is 10 cents. So 25 plus 10 is how much? 25 plus 10 is 35 cents. But let's keep counting because we're not done yet. Then we have 5. We have a nickel. We have another nickel. What's 5 plus 5? 5 plus 5 is 10. So we have 35 cents plus 10. What's 35 plus 10? 35 plus 10 is 45. But are we done? We still have one more left. Right here. What is this? I'm sure you guys remember this one. This is a penny. How much is a penny worth? 1 cent. So if we had 45 cents plus 1, how much do we have now? Now we have 46. So in total, we said she had $6. And how many cents? 46. So we have $6.46. Alrighty, that's pretty cool. Also, if you guys have money on your table now that we got at the beginning of the lesson, if you want, you can take a look and try to count it yourself. Okay, so now we are going to try out some other examples, okay? Prices. A price tells you how much something costs. The price can be a cent amount. It uses a cent sign. This is the cent sign. It kind of looks like a C. Because even though when we say cent, we use the S sound, it's actually spelled with a C. I know that's kind of confusing. It's spelled cent. Can you guys see that? It's a little small. Probably not. It's spelled C-E-N-T. Cent. And whenever you need to buy something that is worth a cent, then it's going to have this little sign right here. These are all the different ways that people write it. That one's kind of small. So usually, there's not a lot of things that are worth 75 cents or 3 cents anymore. But you can go to the 99-cent store and maybe you can buy something that's 99 cents. So it's going to say this, 99 cents each. Okay? Alrighty, I'm going to move on. The price can be a dollar sign. This is a dollar sign. This is usually what you'll see, because usually the things that we buy are worth more than $1. Okay? These are the different ways that it can look. A price can have dollars and cents. It uses a decimal point. The dollars are on the left. The decimal point is in the middle, and the cents are on the right. So the decimal point, I know that can sound kind of weird or confusing. The decimal point is really just a little point. Just a little dot. Tiny little dot. But that's how you know these are cents and this is $1. If there was no decimal point, then that would be a lot of money. That would say 449 if there was no decimal point. But the decimal point is very important. Okay? So every time you're writing something, like if you're leaving a tip somewhere at a restaurant, if you're tipping them $1.50, you always need to make sure you write a decimal point. Because if you don't, that's $150. That's a lot of money, okay? So we need to be very careful to always write a decimal point if we're talking about cents. Okay? So this is $18 for a pair of jeans. Here we have $7.99. So we're almost at $8, right? That's $7.99. If we had one more penny, it would be $8. Here we have $1.69, $4.49, and $39.99. Okay, so I'm going to turn the page. Okay. Practice. Look at the pictures on the right. How much money is in each group? Think about it. Then, follow the lines with your finger. Were you right? Okay. Oh, this was kind of hard to see. It's small, so I'm going to really have to... I can barely see that. Let's see. Alright, so in this one we have $1, a quarter that's kind of hard to see, a nickel, and a penny. So we have $1, a quarter. How much is a quarter? A quarter is 25 cents. We have a nickel. A nickel is worth 5 cents. And then a penny. So how much do we have? $1 plus 25 cents plus 5 cents is 30, plus 1 more cent is 36. $1.36. Let's see if we were right. We're gonna follow the line with our finger. Follow, follow, follow. We got it. $1.36. Okay, let's try this next one. Let's count it. We got 1, 2, these are dollar bills, okay? We're gonna count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. $6 bills. So how much is that? $6. So let's follow the finger and see if we're right. We're gonna follow. We're gonna big loop right here. $6. So that is $6. We were right. We have one more right here. Let's see what those are. These are 2 dimes. 2 dimes. Each one is worth how much again? Each dime is worth 10 cents. So what's 10 plus 10? That's right. 10 plus 10 is 20. So we have 20 cents. Let's see if we got this one right. Oh, this looks like a big loop. We're gonna follow. Big loop. Big loop. 20 cents. We got it. Alrighty, we're gonna move on again. There we go. So, let's see. We got our glossary. Our glossary is basically just a page with all the new words that we learned so that in the future, if you hear them, you know what they mean. So we have the decimal point, a dot in a price that separates the dollars and the cents. Include. Include means to have as part of a whole. I know that's kind of confusing, but let's say if I say, I'm going to include my phone and my water bottle. Now they're together. They're included, okay? Metal. Metal is what the coins are made out of. It's hard, shiny material that can be made into different shapes. So metal is not only used to make coins, it can be used to make a lot of other different things, like this. Right here, that's metal. So it's not just coins. You can make a lot of things with metal. Like here, my water bottle. On the top, this is metal. Actually, the whole thing is. Alrighty. And worth. Worth means equal in value. So, how much is an iPhone worth? A lot of money. How much is a water bottle worth? Not so much. Maybe $5, maybe 10. Okay? So worth is how much you need to pay to get it. Okay? So, I hope that you guys learned a little bit more about all the different kinds of banknotes that we can use here in the United States. I hope that you also learned a little bit of history because we talked about who's on the dollar bills and all their faces. And so guys, I want to encourage you to take the time to practice counting money, counting the money that you guys have on that you guys brought out into the lesson today. And maybe if you get a chance, and go do grocery shopping with one of your family members or friends or caretakers. And when you're there, maybe you can use the money and learn how to pay at the cashier, okay? It might be hard, and it might be scary sometimes buying something, but maybe you can learn how to pay for the juice next time that you go to the grocery store, okay? Or maybe something else. You can buy whatever it is that you guys are missing in your home, but I want you guys to learn how to do that on your own. It's really important, okay? And we also have a activity that you guys can work on. Let me pull it up so I can explain it a little bit more. Let's see. Essentially, you guys are just going to be working on counting and how much you need to pay to buy certain things, okay? So, let's see. Alrighty. So you guys will have access to that when you get the email with all the things for this week with this lesson. And please guys, take the time to really practice this. This is not just this is not just a busy activity. This is really important for you guys, and I hope that one day I can be your job coach and teach you guys the next step about handling your money. I mean, we'll still be learning that here anyway, but learning how to spend our money and count it is the best way to make sure that whenever you do buy something in the store, you pay for exactly how much it's worth. We never want anyone to keep your change, okay? That's really important. And so we need to know how much we're giving the cashier, and we need to know how much they need to give us back, okay? Alrighty. It was nice talking to you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.
Hi guys, how's everyone? Susie here. I hope you're all keeping safe and that you are maintaining our quarantine, that we're staying a safe distance away from others, that we are, as I always remind you, washing our hands, the palms as well as the tops of our hands and in between our fingers. We can't forget about in between our fingers. So I'm going to be reading you guys a story. This story is called The Giant Under the Snow by John Gordon. And this is a book that I bought for my son Harris because it's a book that my husband Ross read when he was a kid and loved. So I thought we could give it a go. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be reading a chapter or two at a time. And you can let me know, give me some feedback. When we call to do our goals, it's a good opportunity for you guys to give your instructors feedback on what you think. So if you enjoy this story, let me know. I'm not going to read it all at once. We're going to read it little by little together. Okay? All right. The Giant Under the Snow by John Gordon. And he has dedicated this book to his mother and father, which I think is like a really nice thing to do. It's nice to do little things like that for those we love, right? If you are thankful that your family or the staff at your group home is helping to keep you safe, maybe you want to do a little thank you note for them, right? There's lots of community heroes right now that are stepping up to make sure that we're safe, from nurses and doctors to family members that are stepping in to maybe take care of us while our parents are at work, or group home staff. Some group homes are adding new staff to come in and help us. So it's always good to remember to say thank you to those that are keeping us safe. Even people at your local grocery store who are working, even though they know they should be maybe at home quarantining, but they know that there's a need for us to be fed, right, during this difficult time. And last night, when I went to my local Publix, because I had to only, some guys came in and look what they did, guys. They brought in pizza for our local Publix delivery, Publix employees. So these are little things you can do. It could just be a little note, thank you, to the mailman. You could leave it in your post box. All right. Chapter 1 is called The Hand. And if you can see here, it's like a forest that's in the shape of a hand. Excuse me. A cold, wet day in December, the worst kind of day for the Backlands. The clouds were so low they seemed to trail their mists in the treetops, and already, at 3:30, it was dark within the forest. Jonquil Winters left the trees and started to cross the heath. Fools, even Bill Smith. Pelting pine cones like little kids. She was glad to leave them behind. The rain had held off for a while, but now the first drops of a new shower pattered into the fern fronds. That would send them running for the bus. Too neat, was she? What was it that girl called her? Never mind, never mind. The shoes, the inappropriate shoes, she clenched her teeth at the thought of Miss Stevens' face as she said it, were wet inside and out. The pointed toe of one of them was scratched. Right. She opened her coat. Let the rest of her get wet. New coat, best jeans, everything. A copse, well clear of all the other trees, stood out on the open heath. She would walk there and back in her own time, and nothing would stop her. She shook her long hair clear of her coat collar and held her face up to the rain. The bus that had brought the school party to the Backlands was hidden in the forest behind her. Its horn sounded. Time to return. Jonquil concentrated on the copse. It was neat and circular, like a little temple. She would walk round it once, slowly, and they would have to wait until she had finished. Bill Smith stooped over a fungus that made a skirt of fleshy frills on a dead tree. No wonder, he said. Arthur Minute stood beside him, blond, thin, and tidy. No wonder what? No wonder fungus is poisonous. Not all of it, not mushrooms. Bill was a shade taller than his friend, dark, and he wore clothes that were more fashionable, but looked as though, once bought, no further care was taken of them. You've missed the point again, he said. It looks poisonous. The point is, said Arthur, does it kill you? The bus driver put his hand on the horn button once again. Out on the heath its sound was thin and distant, like a foghorn at dusk when the beach has emptied. Jonquil Winters shivered. Across a sea of dead bracken, the forest showed no sign of movement. Miss Stevens was asking if everybody had seen the Winters girl. Nobody had. She turned to Mr. Roberts. Her lips were pinched in. We should not have come here, she said. Oh, I don't know, said Mr. Roberts, not wanting to argue. It was he who had organized the trip to the heathland where, many centuries ago, people had lived and left their mark, if you knew where to look. Even now, you know, there's something about it. Miss Stevens turned her back on him. What now? Rain trickled from the floppy brim of Mr. Roberts' hat and dripped from the end of his nose. He took off his glasses to wipe them. He could have been happy in spite of everything if it hadn't been for that woman. She had no feeling for the atmosphere of this lonely place. He sighed and turned to his group of pupils. Miss Stevens is worried about Jonquil Winters, he said. Anyone have any idea where she is? Jonk Winters' girl, sir? That's what I said. Better ask Bill Smith. Why should I know? Bill was angry. If he was keen on Jonk Winters, that was his business. Nothing to do with teachers. That means he has a crush on her. Trouble enough, thought Mr. Roberts, and let the matter drop. Jonk looked around her. The copse was on a very low, flattish mound, so regularly shaped that it may have covered the ruins of a small building, a temple perhaps. But several ridges splayed out from it like the spokes of a wheel or the rays of a sunshade. Jonk counted them, 4 straight ones and 1 shorter and bent. Not a wheel, more like a gigantic hand with trees thrusting up between the fingers. A hand? What if it closed on her? The thought made her jerk her head up. Her hair was wet now. It hung in dark strings to her shoulders and made a spiky fringe across her forehead. Her imagination was trying to frighten her, but she would not be beaten. She would circle the copse. She stepped from the mound to one of the ridges, but her foot was too near the edge, and the rain-sodden earth began to crumble. She tried to jump, and the extra pressure pushed against a miniature landslide away beneath her, and she fell full length between the fingers of the green hand. It seemed to clutch at her, and she almost cried out, but a moment later she crawled clear unhurt. She stood up, facing the green hand, and stooped to brush her coat. As she did so, she saw something shining where the black earth had crumbled. The horn bleated again, nagging like Miss Stevens. It was a sudden spurt of anger more than anything else that made Junk stride into the V of the grassy ridges and stoop to pick up the glinting object. But as her hand reached for it, she paused. The object was like a shiny yellow ribbon twisted upon itself. A clutch of worms wintering under the soil? No, it was metal. She pulled a fern leaf, doubled it to make it stiff, and poked the object clear. It was circular, about the size of her palm, and was composed of metal ribbons that twisted and writhed among themselves in an endless pattern. It looked like a brooch, perhaps an old one, perhaps gold. Certainly it was a discovery. She had been right to visit the Temple of Trees. She picked it up, crumbling the earth from its crevices as she turned it in her hands. There was a distinct pattern to it, and in the middle of the interwoven gilded strips was the shape, like a man, standing upright with his legs together and his arms outstretched. His head was a loop of metal. Now she would go back. The green hand had given her a gift. It no longer seemed unfriendly. Junk smiled slightly as she bent to brush the brooch in the grass of one of the ridges. The grass was short and fine, and beneath it the earth was spongy. She pressed it, and it gave. Another landslip and another treasure. She was about to press again when the turf dimpled, as though it was going to split of its own accord and save her the trouble, but it did not crack. A ripple ran the length of the ridge, and suddenly, with a soft sound, almost like a sigh from underground, it humped itself in the middle. Junk jerked back. The movement stopped. The ridge was absolutely still. The hump in the middle was very low, and may have been there all the time. Stooping may have made her giddy, and she may have imagined it, but she was afraid. She was able to admit to herself that she was afraid. It was time to go. She looked towards the trees that hid the bus, trying to penetrate the darkness under the branches. There was not a glimmer of light, nor a sign of movement. And then, directly between her and the trees, perhaps 50 paces away, something showed above the ferns and crumpled bracken. It must have had its forepaws raised on a mound, but even then, it was big for a dog. A solid mane of black hair, huge. Its sharp black muzzle was pointed straight at her. Junk felt a fluttering in her throat. Breathing was difficult. Then the horn wailed, and the dog turned its head. Only a dog. If she walked towards it, showing no fear, it would do her no harm. But as its head swung toward her again, its muzzle wrinkled, and a yellow line of teeth showed. She heard it snarl, and it vanished behind the ferns, and she panicked. Her first step took her to a fallen branch which hooked her foot and made her stumble. She landed on all fours, then tried to run before she had properly regained her feet, and she blundered, half falling through the bracken, away from the dog and away from the school bus home. A rabbit track was directly in front of her. She ran along it, able to move faster with less noise. She turned into another, listening as she ran. She could hear nothing, but the dog might be silently at her heels. She looked over her shoulder and fell flat. She put her hands over her head and brought her feet up beneath her. The attack did not come. Gasping, eyes wide, she took her arms from her head and listened. Nothing. She stood up and her eyes searched the heath. She could see no sign of the dog. She looked towards the copse. The trees were shaking. There was no wind, but the thin top branches lashed and the trunks jerked as though some enormous thing had curled around them and was beginning to uproot them. and somewhere close to the copse, the dog howled. Her breath hissed in her throat as she ran in a wide circle that would take her to her friends. The dog's howl lay on the heath like the gathering darkness itself, and when it stopped, she heard yelps as the animal came after her again. It cast about. She could see the black flag of its tail from time to time, but it did not seem to find her trail. She began to get control of herself, forcing herself to move more stealthily, keeping behind cover when she could, but the dog was making her circle wider and wider, and she was no longer going toward the main belt of trees, but toward a tongue of the forest that stretched out into the heath. She might be safer inside it. She was almost there when the dog picked up the path she had used. Seconds later, it saw her. She broke for the trees and was zigzagging among the trunks before it was clear of the ferns. She stumbled, almost fell, regained her feet, and plunged on, but it was useless. Now she could hear its rush. Then suddenly, slightly to the left and almost hidden in ivy, she saw a wall, and behind it she glimpsed a roof. It was almost magical the way she covered the ground. It was a straight run, and she flew toward the wall while the dog was still weaving through the trees. She reached the wall and jumped, thrusting her hands high among the ivy leaves and kicking among them for a foothold. She got a firm grip first time, but her feet skidded on the brick. She heaved wildly. Her feet found a branch, and then, quite slowly and rustling gently as it moved, the ivy came away from the wall and lowered her to the ground. The dog, black mane bristling, jaws open and red, made its final ferocious run. She screamed as it leapt. Its jaws closed on her arm. She thrust her other hand into its mane and pulled the coarse hair with all her strength. It shook its head, and the pain in her arm made her scream again. She kicked at it and fell. She was a beast's prey. It began to back away among the trees, pulling her with it. She whimpered. Once she got her arm around a low branch, but the pain of the jaws was too great, and she let go. She screamed for the third time. In the ivy, a door opened. A small figure came through, a woman. 2 or 3 paces, and she stopped. Then Jonk saw her and cried out, and the woman stood still. "Please!" Jonk shrieked. "Please!" A growl in the dog's throat vibrated in her arm. Jonk's mouth was open, as though she would scream, but this time no sound came. There was dead silence in the forest. Then it happened. A crack like a whip. The jaws opened and let Jonk's arm fall as the dog was sent hurtling sideways. It twisted, biting at something she could not see. Another crack, and it leapt, biting the air. Crack followed crack, and the dog writhed and leapt. Then it was on the ground, squirming. No fight left in it, just fear. In the gloom of the forest, Jonk could not see what was attacking it. A sound of breathing alongside her, and something brushed her arm. She started back, but it was the woman. She was slim, dressed in black. She stood over Jonk, but did not look at her. In the gloom, her face was no more than a pale shape with shadows for eyes. But her hands, clenched together beneath her chin, sparkled faintly as she moved them in a series of strange little thrusts. With each thrust came the crack of a whip. The dog backed further away clumsily, bumping into tree trunks. The glittering hands continued to jerk. From a long way off, deep in the forest, came a faint whistle. Jonk turned her head. The dog was creeping away into the darkness of the trees, black disappearing into black, then silence. She looked up at the woman as she unclasped her hands and let them fall. The woman's head was tilted, listening. The whistle came again, more distant. The dog pushed through a patch of undergrowth, and then there was silence again. They remained where they were in the winter forest until Junk, very slowly, surprised she was not trembling, got to her feet. It was not until then that the woman turned towards her. As she put out her hands to take Junk's, the rings that she wore glittered again. Under the hardness of the rings, her hands were dry and feverishly warm. Without a word, she led Junk through the door in the wall and closed it behind them. No words were needed. Junk was being led to safety. They walked on a path of sand. The stillness of the garden was not the stillness of the forest beyond the wall. There was a calmness that went with the orderliness of the little hedges, neat and less than knee-high, that patterned the smooth sand surrounding the house. The sky had cleared and the stars hung high overhead. In the house, a fire flickered. They went inside and the woman switched on a light in the wall. She was still holding Jonk's right hand as she turned towards her, and Jonk could feel the pressure of her fingers nervously altering. She was small. Even her high heels made her only slightly taller than Jonk. Her black hair was so short and smooth, it fitted her head like a helmet. She had dark blue eyes that moved swiftly over Jonk's face, and a small mouth on which a half smile appeared, vanished, then appeared again. She wore a black dress and no jewelry apart from the rings. "I could have told you the dog was loose," she said. "His master thinks he can pin me inside my own house by letting that brute run free." She pulled a face, biting her lower lip as she was afraid, but then she laughed. It was a worldly wise laugh, and flattering, because the woman was treating Jonk as an equal, somebody who knew what she herself knew. But the experience Jonk had just survived was being ignored. Jonk winced. "My arm hurts," she said. The wrinkles of laughter vanished. The black eyebrows dipped into a frown, and under her makeup the woman's face flushed. "Hurts?" "Yes, hurts." Jonk was frowning now, angry at explaining the obvious. "His dog," the woman began, then paused as if puzzled. "It ought to be shot." Shot? Was the woman stupid? Her big eyes were round, simple, not understanding. "Whose dog is it anyway?" For an instant, Jonk was in command, prepared to bully an answer from a silly, flighty little woman. But then the face she was looking into changed. The frown went, the mouth straightened, and she did not answer Jonk's question. "I am Elizabeth Goodenough." The voice and the eyes were steady. "Who are you?" "Jonquil Winters." "Do you know me?" "No." But Jonk was not certain. There seemed something familiar about the face and the black helmet of hair, something she ought to recognize. Without saying anything more, Elizabeth Goodenough led her from the wall into the room where the fire danced. Jonk took her coat off, and under a reading lamp her sleeve was pushed up and her arm examined. The skin was not broken, but the bruises were already beginning to blacken. Elizabeth Goodenough began to massage the painful place. The room was warm, but Jonk shivered. The woman waited for the trembling to cease, but it was uncontrollable. After a moment, she said gently, "Jonquil?" "Yes." "What are you doing in the forest?" Jonk found talking difficult. She had to clench her jaw after every few words to try to control the trembling, but bit by bit she told about the school trip and her anger with Miss Stevens, which had caused her to walk away. "Where are the others?" asked Elizabeth Goodenough. "I was walking by myself." On the heath? Yes. What did you see? Junk pulled her arm away. I want to go home, she said. She looked at her scratched and ruined shoes. Jankwo. It was a command to look up. The large eyes had each caught a prick of white light in the center. What did you see? Junk shook her wet hair clear of her collar. I saw a dog. It was sweetly spoken and defiant. Miss Stevens had often been sent into a cold fury by that tone. Elizabeth Goodenough smiled. And what else? She asked. Junk let her anger make her voice loud. I stood on a green hand and saw trees move when there was no wind. Ah. The jeweled hands were clasped under the chin. I have also seen, thought Junk, a dog whipped when I could see no whip. Rain rattled on the window, and at the bus, the two teachers would be organizing search parties. Elizabeth Goodenough sat back, one hand on each arm of the chair, her feet together. What does she think she is? Thought Junk. A queen? For a long time, Elizabeth Goodenough stayed silent, looking at her. Junk waited, aware that her wet coat was steaming in the heat of the fire, her mind a jumble of thoughts and fears. At length the woman spoke. You are a pretty girl, she said. It is a shame your clothes have been spoilt, but it was your own fault. They were inappropriate. It could have been Miss Stevens speaking. Junk tried to smile, but the muscles on her face barely moved. When your friends come, you must go home and stay with them. That is where your safety lies. What you have seen today should be enough of a warning to you. But what have I done? What is it all about? I don't understand anything. Junk was on her feet. Elizabeth stood up, smiling. Some people are sensitive, she said. Some imaginations fill up too quickly. The words had again become too much like her teacher's. Junk cut herself off. She put on her coat, and her hand in her pocket touched something bitterly cold. Very well. If the little woman was determined to keep her secrets, Junk would keep hers. She tightened her grip on the brooch and thrust it deeper into her pocket. And then Elizabeth Goodenough's face softened. She opened her mouth to speak, but just at that moment, almost inaudible through the forest, the sound of the horn reached them, and Junk could think of nothing but getting home. All right, guys, that's our first chapter from our book, and I think it's pretty intriguing. I wonder what's happening. I wonder what kind of magic is it that Junk saw in the forest. So for next time, we will be doing chapter 2. And I hope that you have a very good night. Bye, everyone.
Hey guys, Caro here with your art lesson number 4. Before we go in, I have a quick message from JC who wants to see you all, and we're going to get a quick stretch on, right? So we're going to do a chair stretch. We're going to stretch to our left, stretch to our right, stretch up, and down. We're going to give ourselves a big hug and a squeeze, and take a deep breath in, and relax. Alright guys, enjoy.
Love you guys. Hope you're paying attention. Hope you're doing everything that Garo's saying. Make sure you color something beautiful. Alright guys, see you soon.
Lesson 4, Ceramics, Basics, Process and Terminology. The objectives for this lesson are to learn about the ceramics process, understand basic ceramics vocabulary, identify ceramics tools, and create a vision for your next ceramics project. So what is ceramics? Ceramics is the art or technology of making objects of clay and similar materials treated by firing. They are articles of earthenware, porcelain, and or brick. So if you guys remember back in the art class, we have 2 kilns in the back that we use to fire our clay. The ceramics process and origins. So ceramics generally starts with a clay-based material dug from the ground, and it's mixed with water. So the water makes it soft and flexible so you can shape it into whatever you're trying to make. Then it's fired at a high temperature in a large industrial oven, and those are called our kilns. Like I said in the previous slide, we do have 2 kilns at the Wow Center that we use when we're making our ceramic flowers, our vases, and things like that. So firing is what most ceramics have in common, and there's 4 basic processes that take place when you're working with clay. So first you're going to dig the raw material from the ground, then you're going to add the water, we're going to shape it, and firing. So when we receive the clay, the first 2 processes have already taken place. They've already been dug from the ground, and the water has been added to it. So we start off our process and shaping it into whatever we're trying to make, and then going on to firing it to set the clay and harden it. So what does it mean? We're going to take a minute to listen to the different words and terms that we're going to be discussing and hearing about in the following videos about the ceramics process. So first we're going to talk about clay, which is the material that we use to make our ceramic pieces. We're going to talk about molding and sculpting, which is the process that we use to mold or shape whatever we're trying to make. Sometimes in our class we use cookie cutters to make our ceramic flower bouquet. Sometimes we use molds to make more complex things like a vase or a mug. Firing, which is the process where you heat the ceramic clay at a high temperature so that it can reach the point where it can no longer melt and it hardens the clay. The kiln, which is the industrial oven that we use to get to those high temperatures. And finally the glaze, which is the paint or the color that we give our finished product to give it a nice shine, a nice color, to make it aesthetically pleasing. In the next few slides, we're going to explore each step of the ceramics process. Okay, the first video we're going to tune into is going to show us how to pour molds for your ceramic process, and their second video is going to be how to mold by hand. So you can do either one. It depends on really on what you're making. Like I said in the previous slide, if you're making something more complex like a cup, a vase that needs like a definite shape, then you would definitely go for your molds. And if you want to make something more unique like a pinch pot or a ceramic flower bouquet, then you'd use your hand molding.
Okay, I'm going to pour the one-piece mold. It's a good idea to get a pitcher and fill it up with enough slip that you know it's going to fill up your mold here. So I'm just going to go through the process of casting a cup, and it's the process that I use. It works for me. It varies from person to person, and it also works with the type of casting slip I'm using. But what you want to do is have your dry mold, and you may want to get some kind of a pitcher or something like that and fill it up at a pretty steady rate. Avoid stopping in between because the plaster immediately starts absorbing the water. So if you take a break, you're going to get a line that's going to have to be cleaned up later. And so you fill it up, go ahead and fill it up over the top and let it spill over. And then for this slip in my interests, I cast this for about 10 minutes, and that's going to get me like about 1/8 of an inch wall. So what's happening here is that this dry porous plaster is drinking out the water from your casting slip, and while it's doing that, it's building up a wall on the inside, and you can kind of see how the fluid level has dropped as it's pulled the moisture out, when you can actually see the wall there. So the way I do it, and the way I'd recommend doing it if you want a nice, level, even cup, is after a few minutes and you notice the level's gone down, as you need to top it off. And for something like this, probably, since it's not casting for that long, probably only once over the course of the whole casting timed period. All right, so the time has passed, and it's time to now pour the excess casting slip out. So I'm just using my bucket that I mixed all my slip in to start. And there's a particular way to pour this out that's going to give you a nice interior. And I picked this thing up at the hardware store. This is actually like a closet shelving thing, and I like to use these to pour my slip out on. It goes through it and it holds your mold up here. But you could easily also use a piece of wood here. And saying that, why we have this little elevated rod here is that we want to pour this thing out and let it rest at an angle like this. And you leave it in here until it just completely stops dripping. And why I do this and leave it at an angle is that if you actually turn it completely upside down, and this is particular to a cup, that the flat bottom of the interior is going to have little drips of casting slip as it sets up. And whenever you look in your cup and you're drinking from it later, you're going to have some undulations and irregularities from drips of casting slip on the bottom. All the slip's poured out, it's stopped dripping, interior of our cup form is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut this excess material off the top with my razor knife. And I'll slice it all the way around and use the top of the plaster as a guide, but I don't go completely perpendicular to the shape of my form. I always kind of hold my knife at a little bit of an angle, so I'm kind of slicing like this. I'm just going to cut down in here, go all the way around. Okay, it's just going to be a few more minutes and this thing will be ready to be removed from the mold. So I think our cup's probably ready to be turned over and to get this thing out of the mold. And I know that because as the water's being drawn out, just like with a normal soft clay, as it dries, it's shrinking, and I can see that there's a little gap here that's around the edge, so it seems like it's come loose in there. So the way I do this, I like to take a board or something flat and just put it on the top, and I'm going to turn this thing over in the manner that you'd flip over a cake, I guess. And because our clay piece on the inside is shrank, it should just drop right out. Okay. At this stage, you want to be very careful when you're picking it up not to deform the rim. Just like throwing porcelain, clay has memory, and anytime you deform these things, even if you deform it and try to put it back into shape in the firing, it's gonna change its shape again back to its deformed, however you've deformed it. Now I previously already cast a cup, and I want to go over the method that I use, that it works pretty well for as far as treating the rim if you've accidentally cut it irregular, it has some wavers on it, or if you want to make it rounder. I do this stage, this kind of cleaning up the rim, whenever the cup is actually bone dry, and that helps keep me from squeezing it and deforming it. So what I'm going to use is actually some vinegar and water and my rasp and sponge. I'm just going to dip the rim of this thing in the vinegar. Just let it soak in for a second. And now if I look at my rim and if it has any irregularities, I can plane it down here. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of create a nice little bevel here so I don't have this sharp edge, and I'm just going to go around it. Kind of soften it up. Lastly, inspect it and then smooth it out with the sponge. I also want to look around the whole thing and just see if there's any irregular parts, see if my slip created any weird lines or anything like that, and you can get like that. You can go ahead and smooth the whole cup down. Okay, there, it's done.
So on the previous slide, you guys were able to watch a little clip about someone doing some slip casting. So that's when you use a very watered down form of clay when you pour it into a mold, and then you create your piece. He was working on a cup. And this video now that we're going to watch is going to be a video about making a pinch pot, which is using your hands and molding manually instead of using a cast.
Hey, today we are going to be making a pinch pot. First thing we're going to need to do is get our lump of clay into a sphere. So to do that, I'm going to take the clay and tap it on all 6 sides until it becomes a cube. Then I'm going to take, or something more like a cube, then I'm going to take the palm of my hand and dent down the corners and edges. Creating more of a sphere. Then using the palm of my hand, I'm going to cup and hold the clay, encouraging it to become a sphere. Notice that my fingers are not digging into the clay, but I'm just creating a nice round form. Next, I'm going to look for any blemishes or yucky spots, folds or crevices on the ball. If they're there, that's the place that you're going to want to put your hole. But I don't have any, so I'm good. So I'm going to take my thumb, keeping it nice and straight, and I'm going to press down into the ball. And I can sort of check how deep I am, and then compare it to make sure I've got just about enough space at the bottom. I do. Then I'm going to spin the ball around my thumb, pressing my thumb down and out. Finally, I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to crook it into the palm of, or the fingers of my hand, so that I'm widening the base of the pot. Notice that I'm supporting the clay at all times, and I'm encouraging the form that I want it to take by making that form with my supporting hand. To pinch the clay, you want to make sure that you are using what I call a kind pinch, that the meaty parts of your fingers are coming together. You don't want to use a hurtful pinch like this, because that'll mar your clay. So you want to go all the way to the base of the pot and pinch. Now I'm going to try and keep my top finger perfectly horizontal, and I'm actually growing the pot more vertical this way. If you've ever had a problem with a pot wanting to open up and become more of a bowl, it's usually because you're working at it from above, and that's kind of hard to do. You're going to overlap your pinches so that you get a nice even thickness, and this is at the base of the pot. Then you're going to work more towards the rim, but without actually touching the rim. You're going to overlap your pinches, and this is going to continue to grow your pot a little more vertical, even though it looks horizontal right now. As soon as we flip it up, it'll be vertical. Now, you're not a machine, but you're going to try and make sure that all your walls are about the same thickness, and that you don't have any large divots. You should have small little impressions. Don't worry if your clay gets a little cracky. We've done a whole lot to the clay in a short period of time. We've taken it from a solid cube to an open vessel in a short period of time. The last thing that I'm going to do is not really pinching the rim, but I'm just going to make sure that the rim's as even thickness as it can be. When you look down on it from above, the wall should be about all the same thickness. This is called collaring the pot. That's wrapping your fingers around the outside edge, and then using a swiping motion, you're going to sort of heal in any of these crevices that have happened because we've just sort of stretched the clay out a lot. You can also use this swiping motion on the walls of the pot if it's cracky. I always say that you want to touch it like a gentle massaging kind of stroke. Nothing very hurtful or painful. You just want to make sure that you're sort of encouraging the clay to be smooth again by sliding your fingers over it. You do the same thing with the wall of the pot. Always make sure you put your fingers inside, and here I'm sliding my thumb along the outside edge, outside surface. There's a crack right there. I'm going to swipe it over and get it nice and smooth. If you start with cubes that are about, or portions of clay that are about the same volume, then you're going to end up with pots that are about the same volume. Now earlier I said you're not a machine, so all your walls aren't going to be perfectly the same thickness, but you're going to be close. Probably the thing that upsets students the most is that the rim is irregular. So you're going to have some high spots and some low spots. That's okay. That's to be expected. Don't worry too much about it. Remember that you also want to put your name on the bottom of your pot. If you need it to stand up like this and become a vessel, you can gently take the pot and tap it onto the table surface. If you need it to become something like a turtle shell or the base of a monster that's going to go that way, then make sure you leave that area nice and domed, and you can do that by taking your thumb and pressing up into the dome, making it nice and neat. And that is how you construct a pinch pot.
There's just a few things that you have to note before you start working with clay or determine what process of the ceramics making you're in. So before you fire anything, you have to make sure that the greenware, which is what the clay is called before you fire it, is in the right state or phase before firing it. So before you fire anything, you have to make sure that it's completely dry, which is referred to as bone dry in ceramics. If you put something in the kiln that is not completely dry, chances are it's either going to crack in the kiln or explode. The reason for that is that there's still water inside of the clay. So when you put it in the kiln, it expands and it makes it crack. So you have to make sure that you have the right consistency before firing it. So again, before you fire any clay, the clay is called greenware. Once you fire it, it turns into bisqueware. Another thing to keep in mind is that greenware can always be reshaped. So even if something is in the process of drying or almost completely dry, you can always re-wet it or add clay so that you're able to mold it again. Once you do fire the clay, however, you can't go back and fix it. By that time, it's already hardened to the point where you can no longer fix it. But as long as it's in the process of still being greenware of any of the phases, you can always add clay or water to remold it the way that you want. Okay, so now we're going to go into the second step in our process. We already went through our molding, our sculpting. So the next step after it dries and it's completely bone dry, we're going to go into our firing process. That's when we put the greenware into the kiln to make it bisqueware. So we're going to click on the video up there and we're going to learn a little bit more about the firing process.
All right, so we are here with the kiln. The kiln is our most important tool for when we are doing clay because it's what takes it from being a very fragile piece of clay to something that is hard like stone. So inside the machine, there are what we call the heating elements. So they're just coils of little metal, and that's what heats up the inside of the kiln. You can see down at the bottom we have shelves and posts, so that way we can stack shelves all the way up to the top. Over here on the side, this is the control center. This is the brains of the operation. All right, so when you finish with your clay, it's going to be a dark gray color like this. One way to know whether it's ready to fire or not is that its color is going to change. But as its color changes and gets to be a lighter gray, the clay gets hard, but it's very easy to break. And so if you're not careful when you pick it up, it might just snap or fall apart. And so that's why it has to go to the kiln to get hard and hard like a stone or like a brick. All right, so the next step when you are done with clay is that it has to sit over here on the shelves to dry. And so it usually takes it about a week to thoroughly dry out so all the water is gone. If the water is not completely gone, when it starts to heat up in the kiln, the water turns into steam and causes the clay to kind of explode. And so it shatters into a bunch of pieces. So it's very important that it sits to dry. Usually everything is spread out so it's not touching any of the other clay while it dries, but I've gone ahead and done some cleaning to the clay to make it ready for the to fire. So to clean our clay, a lot of times I'll take one of my knives and I'll scrape the edges, or I might take this Brillo light pad and kind of sand down the edges, because we want it to look nice before it gets fired, because once it's fired, it's that way forever. All right, so now it's time to load all of this into there.
When you are firing clay for the first time, it can be stacked up and can touch each other. It doesn't have to have a lot of wiggle room. There just needs to be a little bit of room around the edges of the shelf so the air can circulate around the clay tiles.
And so we can really fire a lot of pieces all at the same time when we squish them close together. See inside, we've run out of room on this shelf to stack it any higher. So that's where these little pegs, the stilts, come in handy, because then they can hold up another shelf above the other one, and we can just keep stacking everything in until we have all our clay loaded. Now, as I'm loading this, you can also see this little guy down here. He's like a thermometer for the kiln. He measures the temperature and how hot it gets inside. So this tells the kiln when to stop heating up or if it needs to heat up longer. So he's a pretty important guy, so I want to leave lots of room around him. And so it's very important that when you're making stuff, you attach it the right way. Otherwise, oh, it falls off, like in this guy's case. And so that's why when I'm doing this, I have to be very careful and very focused to try not to hurt anybody's clay project. As you can see, I'm pretty close to the top, so I don't think I'll have room for another shelf. But I think I have room for all my pieces that are ready to fire. All right, so the next step is to close the lid and secure it. And then over here on the control box, I need to tell it exactly what I need it to do. So I'm going to say it needs to fire, and it needs to be at a certain temperature. And I want it to go fast, so that way we can be ready to work on it the next day. And now it's ready to go. All I have to do is press start. So we're back, and it's time to open the kiln to see how everything turned out. Usually I fire after school, and then it takes that whole night to heat up to the temperature it's supposed to get to, which is close to 2,000 degrees. And then it has to slowly cool back down, which usually takes until right first thing in the morning when school starts. So let's open her up and see how everything turned out. And so it looks like we had a great fire. It doesn't look like anything got broken, and everything is just like it's supposed to be. And so now I have to take everything back out of the kiln and put it back in all the teachers' tubs, so that way you can find your clay and work on step 2, the glaze process.
Okay guys, so a couple of things to know about the firing process. Remember, the kiln gets extremely hot, so it's not safe for us to go in the kiln room at any time without being supervised. The only time that you guys are able to come to the kiln with me is when we're loading it. That means the kiln hasn't been set yet and it's not hot. And when we load it, we put in our pieces depending on what we're loading. If it's greenware, that means it doesn't have any glaze on it, then you can put it directly on to the kiln. If we're working with something that has been glazed already or it has paint, we can't put it directly on there because it'll melt directly onto the kiln, so we have to load it up onto stilts. So just remember, whenever we're firing, it has to be 1, completely dry, and 2, that you're not able to change it afterwards and it's exactly the way that you want it. After you fire, it does turn from greenware into bisqueware. So that's going to be the second phase of our ceramic process. So now we're going to go into our third and final step of the ceramics process, the glazing process. So this is probably my favorite part for a lot of reasons. My favorite thing about glazing is that it gives your piece something unique, something that you created in your mind and you're able to transfer on to your piece. So enjoy this video and then we'll get back with some important things to know about glazing.
It's always exciting when you get to glaze your pots finally, and you get to take them from being pink and looking like everyone else's to something that's really, really beautiful and unique. So today we're going to talk about glazing and just the very basics of how we're going to do it. The first thing you want to think about is it actually bisqueware, and that's a new term for us. Bisqueware means it's been fired in the electric kilns once, which means it is no longer greenware. So first, let's discuss the difference between greenware and bisqueware. One of the first things you'll notice is the color difference. Greenware, even when it's really, really dry, bone dry, it's actually more gray than pink. Another thing you'll notice is the sound that it makes when you hit your fingernail or a metal tool on it. So when you hit this one, there's a clunk, 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 almost a hollow sound like when you're hitting a pumpkin or a melon. And when you hit the bisqueware, there's a very bright sound, more like a wind chime or a bell. So that's one thing you can look for. If you want to get really weird, you can actually lick your pot. And if you lick the bisqueware pot, your tongue will stick to it and it will not stick to the greenware pot. But I don't recommend licking your friends' pots because you don't know where their germs have been. So we look at the color, we look at the sound, and then worst case scenario, if you're really confused, you can always ask me and I will tell you if it's ready to glaze or not. So now that we've decided it's actually bisqueware, I want to tell you about the importance of not putting glaze on the bottom of your pot. If you notice this already glazed bowl, it has a ring on the bottom, like the foot ring on this bowl, that has no glaze on it. And the reason that is, that's called a dry foot, and that's also a new vocab term. The reason you want to have a dry foot on the bottom of your pot is because glaze doesn't know the difference between the pot that you're glazing and the kiln shelf. So if you put glaze on the bottom of your pot and then stick it on a kiln shelf, what ends up happening is after it melts, you get a bowl attached to a kiln shelf, and that's not really useful unless you're super strong and want to lift a kiln shelf every time you're slurping your cereal milk. So you need to make sure there's no glaze on the bottom. Potters used to just glaze their pots and then wipe the bottom off with a sponge, but we have a trick that we use that makes it a lot easier. And what we use is wax. Let me see if it's even labeled. There it is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to think about all the spots that are touching the kiln shelf, plus a little bit up the wall on each side. And as I'm waxing this, I'll tell you why that's important. So first I'm covering the bottom of each pot with wax. And then you'll notice that this foot ring is about 1/4 of an inch up on either side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put wax all the way up till it reaches the bottom of the bowl. And the reason we wanna do that is because each glaze is a little bit different. But we've talked about the fact that glaze has silica in it. And silica is a glass former. And when there's a lot of silica in a glaze, or a lot of flux, which is what makes the glaze melt, the glaze actually relaxes in the kiln, and I like to think of it as kind of shrugging down, and it could potentially touch the kiln shelf. So we need a little bit of wiggle room in case the glaze decides to run down the foot of our pot a little bit. All right, so now we've done the outside, and that's usually the side people remember to do. A lot of times what people forget is that the inside of their foot ring needs to be waxed also. Otherwise it's going to stick on the inside. In one of the next glazing videos, I'll show you how to use a banding wheel, which makes this process a lot faster and a little bit less cumbersome. So when we glaze this, we'll be glazing this part of our pot, the very bottom, and the inside. So next we need to talk about glazes. When you're deciding what color of glaze you want to use, you're going to notice a lot of test tiles that are either cups like this with ridges in the middle, or flat tiles that are L-shaped. They also have ridges in the middle. Either way, it's going to tell you what the glaze is going to look like after it's been fired. So the reason this is important is if you look in the glaze buckets, you're going to see colors like this. And this glaze is Tinmaku, or Hamada Rust is another name of it, and it actually turns out this color. You'll notice this side of the tile, where the ridges are, where it goes over the sharp edges, it turns brown. So this would be a really good glaze to use if you had a lot of details on your pot, because you'd be able to see the details better when it goes over the surface. You can also see on the flip side that when you put it on thicker, it turns black. So be cautious if you really like this kind of rusty black and gold color that you put it on just with one coat versus two. The backs of these tiles have 2 dips on them. Now that you've picked what color you're going to do, you're almost to the part where you actually get to glaze your pot, but there's one more thing you have to check before you actually glaze it, and that's to make sure that the glaze is the right consistency. So if you look at the top of this glaze bucket, what you might notice is that there's kind of a liquidy, watery section on top that isn't the same as the rest of the glaze, and as I stir it up, the clear section of water goes away as I mix it. I'm also kind of feeling around on the bottom to make sure that there are no big chunks or that one particular chemical has settled on the bottom. Sometimes people think that if the top of the glaze is stirred up that that's good enough, but really it's not, because some of the important chemicals might be at the bottom, and if you don't get the right combination, the glaze won't turn out the way you want it to. So now that I've made sure that there's no chunks and it's all the same consistency, I want to think about what consistency that is. And ideally you want it to be a little bit thicker than whole milk. You want it to be not super chunky like oatmeal. You want it to be runny enough that it goes onto your pot evenly, but you don't want it to be so thin that you don't get enough glaze on there. So if it's like, you know, thick, well-stirred hot chocolate, that's what I like to think about it as being. All right. When you're glazing with any of the glazes that are red colored while they're in liquid form, you want to be careful about getting them on your clothes, because it means that they have iron oxide in them, which I said before is the same as rust. So you want to make sure that if you need to wear an apron, you wear one, or bring an extra change of clothes from home so that your parents aren't mad at you for getting glaze on your clothes, or just be super careful when you're using these glazes that have a lot of iron in them. So what I'm going to do to glaze this bowl all one color is I'm going to use this pair of tongs, and I'm going to clamp the side, and I'm going to make sure that it's firmly clamped before I let go. Now when I put it in the glaze, I'm going to make sure it gets all the way in, and I'm going to hold it under only for about a full second before I pull it out and make sure all the glaze is dumped out. So you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to go in 1001. And then I make sure all the glaze is dumped out. Make sure you also dump out the glaze that's caught in the foot ring. Some people forget about that and they end up splashing that on their clothes. You see that the glaze is drying fairly quickly, and that wax has done a really good job of keeping the glaze off the bottom. Next, I'm going to flip it over and unclamp the pot, and you'll see that there are these little marks from where the tools were. So what you can do is you can put put a tiny bit of little glaze on the inside. If you have any cuts on your fingers, any wounds from other classes, if you take Mr. Duvall's class, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll want to make sure that you either use gloves or a paintbrush because you don't want to get the metals inside of your cut because it's not very good for you. Since I do not have any cuts on my finger, I am confident I can smooth it all out. All right. If you see any of these smaller bumps on the surface, those will actually melt out once it's really hot, so you don't have to worry about getting it perfectly smooth. You just want to make sure that it's smooth in general. You can see that there's some bumps on the inside, and what you can do is just take your finger and lightly sand them to make it smooth. And now we can go over to the sink and get it ready for the kiln. To get your pot ready for the kiln, you have to make sure that you have a truly dry foot, which means there's no glaze on the bottom. So even though the wax did an excellent job of keeping most of the glaze off, you can see that there's still a few spots on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sponge and make sure that I wring most of the water out of it. And then I'm going to just give it a quick little wipe to make sure that there's no glaze spots. Double check that I've gotten glaze all over everywhere on my piece of pottery. And now I can take it out to the kiln and it'll be fired and it'll make an excellent little ice cream mold. So some people might wonder why I only put one coat of glaze on this particular piece, and that was because the glaze was just the right thickness that when I dipped it once, it gave a nice even coating all over the whole glaze, and I really like when the Tinmaku glaze turns out with that rusty brown black combination. If I wanted it to be solid black with this particular glaze, I could dunk it a second time and that would make it darker. However, you want to make sure that you never put more than 3 layers of glaze. That's not, you know, a hard set in stone number. That's just a rule that I generally use with the glazes in our studio, because sometimes if you put too much glaze on a pot, it will actually run fairly heavily, and this person got very lucky. You can see this strip in particular went all the way down and almost touched the kiln shelf, but didn't. However, some students haven't gotten so lucky, and their pottery becomes a permanent installation of art on the shelves out in the kiln, and they don't get to take it home. And it's very, very frustrating. And then they also get to spend a lot of time grinding the shelves for me, which isn't super fun. So just make sure you're not putting glaze on too thick. The other thing you need to make sure of in terms of caring for your glaze before it gets to the kiln is once it turns into this dry, powdery chalk on the outside, be very careful not to bang it against any hard edges or hit it with your fingernail, because you can actually flake pieces of glaze off, and then you won't have any glaze there and it won't look as nice. Also, let's pretend you have 2 pots, one with a glaze that's very red and another glaze that is very white. Make sure you wash your hands before you touch the piece of pottery that isn't the darker color glaze, because it will transfer just like chalk and powder to your clothes. It'll transfer to the other pieces of pottery.
All right, guys, so there's a couple of important things to note about glazes. So one of the most interesting things about glazes to me is how they're never really the color that you see in the bottle. So sometimes when we open up a glaze and we say, hey, I want to paint this cup red. So immediately we'll look towards our glazes and we'll say, okay, that one's red. I'm going to use that one to paint it red. But in reality, once you put it in the kiln and you fire it, it turns out it's blue. So we really have to be careful when picking and choosing our glazes, and if we need some help, you should always ask JC or myself so we can help you pick the correct glaze for your piece so that you're not disappointed when it comes out and it's not the color that you imagined. Another thing that I love about glazes is that there's so many different glazes. If you're going for something matte or without shine, we have matte glazes. We have gloss glazes, which give it that nice glossy finish. And we have some that are my absolute favorite, and they're crystal glazes that have actual little bits and pieces that explode in the kiln. So there's one that I particularly like. It's called Fruity Freckles, and it's so, so cute. It's has little speckles of orange and teal. So yeah, that's really important to note, again, that when you're selecting your glaze, you have to have something in mind, and it's not going to look like what you see there, but it's okay. We work together and we select the gold that the glaze that you envision, and then we'll apply it to your ceramic piece. Also, talking about applying it, you can only apply your glaze to bisqueware. That means something that's already been fired. You can't go from greenware, something that hasn't been fired, and just apply glaze to it. It won't work that way. So you have to go through the steps in order to get your final product, your glazed product. Another thing that's important, like I mentioned in the other video, is that you have to load the kiln with stilts the second time around. So once it's bisqueware and you've added your glaze to it, you have to make sure to either leave a lip on the bottom so that your glaze doesn't bleed directly on to the kiln bed, or make sure to put it on a still to avoid it getting stuck to the kiln and making a big mess. So glazes are really tricky, but they're super fun. All right, so now that you guys know a little bit more about the ceramics process, I'm going to go ahead and do a little show and tell. I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use daily when we're working with ceramics, and I'm going to show you the different stages of our clay that you guys have worked on. I brought some from WOW to go ahead and show you so you get a better idea. All right, so we're going to start off with our first tool. This right here is called a scraper or a rib. This is used to smooth things out. So for example, if you're making a mug or a little pot and you see something's not even or has a lump in it, you can go ahead and use the scraper or the rib to smooth it out. So scraper or rib. Okay. Next, we're going to go on to our needle. So the needle has two different sides to it. With this one, you can use it to scrape things. And on this side, we use this one mostly to make the holes in our ceramic flowers. So remember, whenever we're assembling our ceramic flowers, we have to put a stem in the middle. So we usually poke it with this in the middle to be able to put our stem through. We also use this one when we're making our Christmas ornaments, so that we're able to put a ribbon through it. Okay, so this is your needle. Okay, our next one is going to be our ribbon and loop tool. So this one, if you see it, it has like a little loop at the end. This one's used to scrape things out, or if you want to carve something out. So if you want to do like a design on your pot or whatever it is that you're making, you can go ahead and scrape it out easily with this. Or you can level something out. For example, if you're making a mug and the top is not completely even, you can go ahead and pass the loop around the top to scrape off whatever piece you want to take out. So ribbon and loop. All right, and then we're going to go on to our paintbrushes. So we usually use these when we're glazing. So depending on what you want to glaze, you can use a thicker one for a bigger piece or a thinner brush if you want to do some detailed work. I forgot to mention in our glaze section, but whenever we're glazing in class, make sure that you're using 3 coats of glaze, and you have to wait for it to dry in between. So you're going to do your first coat, you're going to let it dry, and you'll notice when it's dry, it's going to be a different color. So when you first apply it, you're going to see it's really wet, and then as it starts drying, it kind of looks chalky. So then you know you're ready for your second coat. And then you wait again for it to dry, and then you go on to your third coat. Remember when we're making our flowers, not to fill in the hole in the middle with glaze, because once that goes into the kiln, it'll melt, and there goes your circle, and you won't be able to put a stem in. So make sure you go ahead and glaze around it, and if you happen to get glaze in, it's okay. You can always add water to remove the glaze from the middle. Okay, so your paintbrush is for your glaze. Now I'm going to show you guys some of the flowers that you guys have made in class. I'm going to start off by showing you your greenware. Okay, so this is a flower that one of you made. And as you can see, this is still like a darker gray. I'm not sure if you can see it too well here, but this is a darker gray. And the reason it's considered greenware is because it hasn't been fired. Remember in one of the videos, she mentioned that greenware can break easily. So, see? Easily broken. That's greenware. All right, once it's already gone into the kiln, you're going to get something that looks like this. And this is bisqueware. Okay, so bisqueware is different because it's whiter in color. So it's not that dark gray that you see there, and it's not easily broken. So this is already hard, and it's set, and you can't change it. Okay, and our third step, I'm going to show you this ceramic flower, okay, and this is the glaze that I was telling you guys about. This is the one that's called Fruity Freckles. So it has your little bits of orange, teal, blue, yellow, has a little bit of everything. So these are your crystal glazes, which are my favorite. I have another one called Poppy Fields. So this one has a little bit of pink, a little bit of orange, and a little bit of navy blue. That's another crystal glaze. All right, and then you also have your solids. All of these are gloss glazes, so they're all shiny. You have your reds, your sky blues, and your pinks. Okay, so now you know, next time you go into our class, those are all the steps that we take to get those beautiful ceramic bouquets going. I'm going to use the next few slides to incorporate some pictures of you guys working in class so you can see all of your hard work and how you guys went through all of the steps and the different processes and used all the different tools and glazes to achieve the beautiful ceramic bouquets that you guys made for Valentine's Day. So go ahead and enjoy the pictures that I'm putting up. Now that we're familiar with the ceramics process and terminology, let's use our imagination, creativity, and knowledge to create a vision for the next ceramic piece that you want to complete in class. Take the next 30 minutes to draw what you would like to make or select and complete an activity of your choice from the options provided. Envision and create. Use your imagination and creativity to sketch the next piece you would like to create in class. Remember to be specific when you're designing it. So let us know if it's going to be a cup, a vase, what color it's going to be, do you want it to be big or small. Okay, the materials for this assignment are paper, pencil, and either color pencils, markers, or crayons, whatever you have on hand at home. For your second option, you have a ceramics word search. So try and find some of the words that we discussed today, and as you find them, take a minute to remember what each term means. For your third and last option, you can watch a suggested video so you can expand your knowledge and learn more about the ceramics process by clicking on the link on the slide. I'm going to also provide that link in your resources pages. Alright guys, as always, thank you for tuning in. Remember to have fun and get creative. If you can, send us some pictures, some videos. We love to see what you're up to. You can tag us on social media. Alright, so we'll see you next time, and as always, we wish you well.
Hi everyone, Suzi here. Today I'm going to be reviewing your special topics. Special topics, we are on our week 1 special topics, and that covers your support planning participation, your services satisfaction, as well as your choices. Do I participate in a support planning IPP meeting? You're meant to. You are the reason everyone that is gathered at that IPP meeting is there. So take that opportunity to use your voice and to discuss with us what your personal goals are, what your intention for the following year are, and if there is anything that you are extra satisfied with, we love to hear that. And we also like to hear what you want us to help you with. Maybe there are things you're not satisfied with, and that's a good time to speak up. Do I choose my services? Yes. Your services are up to you. It is your needs that we try to meet with the services that we put in place for you. So if there is anything, any particular need that you have that you feel is not being met, please let someone on the WOW staff know. Your social services team works really hard to make sure that your choices are listened to and that we pay attention to those choices, not just at WOW, but with your other services as well. Am I happy with all my services? I hope so. I hope that you're happy with the services that you're getting. However, if you are not happy with any services, please do not hesitate to speak up. Sometimes you might think, should I speak up about this? Should I bring it up? Should I not? We're all here to help you. So please, by all means, use your big voice and speak up so that we know for sure that the services that you're getting are the services that you need. And if you have a need that you feel isn't being met, or maybe it's a need that we don't know about yet, maybe it's just something that you're thinking in your own head, something that you need, this is the time for you to speak up and to vocalize that need to us. Because if we don't know you have a need, then we can't help you have that need fulfilled, right? So please let us know. Do I choose my goal? Yes, your goal is ultimately your choice. As your instructors, we sit with you and we try to assess where you need to work on something so that we can choose a goal that is beneficial to you. We don't just choose the goals willy-nilly. Oftentimes the goals are tailored to what your particular needs are. But at the end of the day, the choice of that goal is up to you. Am I happy with the goal that I chose? I hope you are. I love seeing how excited you get when you have a new goal that you're working on. And I know that at first, sometimes working on a new goal is difficult because you don't know it yet. You're not familiar with it. But one of the things that I love as your instructor, and I know that all of us instructors love, is to watch you transition from somebody who's unsure about their goal and learning a new goal and working on a new goal to someone who is confident in that goal. And towards the end, usually about 3 to 4 weeks in, we start to see that confidence starting to pick up, and we start to see you become very proud of yourself when you accomplish your goal. That's why for us, it's so important that we continue to monitor your goal, especially now that we are having virtual classes instead of seeing you every day. It's important for us to call you up and to check, how are you doing on that goal? Are you comfortable with it yet? Are you succeeding at that goal? I know that one of my favorite parts of my day is getting to talk to all of you on the phone. And I know that that's true for your other instructors as well. Do I make choices on the activities at the WOW Center? The whole structure of the WOW Center circles around your choices. Your choices are important to us because they are the cornerstone, the important stone, right? Because the whole WOW Center is built around that. It's built around your choices. So we work very hard as instructors to make sure that your voices are heard, and that when we're planning our calendar for the following month, that we are taking into account those choices. That's why, for instance, I've covered life and work skills when we're making choices in that class. And I love your participation in that. I love when you raise your hand and you say, I want to work on a new healthy snack that I can learn how to make here at the WOW Center, and then I can take home and teach others how to make. In our program, the CBE program, we love finding new and exciting places in the community to go out. And that's why we always ask you, have you been anywhere that you'd like to visit with CBE? Daily in CBE, you choose where to eat, but once a month, you choose what you want to do in the community. So we're always on the lookout for new and exciting adventures for us to have together, and for places that offer us an opportunity to learn and to grow and to integrate with the community in that special way that only we can do. I know all of your teachers are very proud of the choices that you are presented with, and I know that we all like to hear when you have new and exciting choices that we could all participate in together. Am I happy with my service providers? The WOW Center is one of your service providers. Group homes or other service providers, other programs like the weekend programs that some of you attend on Saturday and Sunday are also service providers. So if you are happy with those service providers, it's important for us to know, because then it might be a service that we can offer somebody else, that we can tell somebody else about. Maybe there's somebody who is not in a Saturday or Sunday program. Maybe there's somebody that's not participating in Coach Gloria's program, for instance, or Special Olympics program. So it's important for us to know when you're happy with those services, because then we think, oh, that's a good service to offer others. But as well as that, it's important for us to know if you feel that you're not happy with a program or with a service, so that we can then find out why, what's going on that you're not happy with it. Maybe it's not something you're very keen on or excited about doing, but maybe it's something that you need in your life, you know, like maybe you don't love exercise, but exercising is a healthy component to having a healthy life. And we know, as we've told you before, that a healthy body also ties to a healthy mind, right? Am I happy with my support coordinator? Your support coordinator is your biggest advocate. An advocate is somebody who uses their voice to speak up for you, right? To help you achieve your goals. So I hope that you're happy with your support coordinator. I know that we at the WOW Center work with many wonderful support coordinators. So it's really important for you to establish a good relationship with yours. It's important that you are able to feel comfortable in voicing your desires to your support coordinator and in voicing your goals to your support coordinator. So please treat your support coordinator as one of your best friends, because they really are. They're really out there. Their only job is to make sure that you are getting the services that you require and want. Do I know and understand that I can make changes if I am unhappy with my services, service providers, and support coordinator? As I said, all of our services are tailored to you. So it is very important to make sure that you understand that you can make changes with your service providers, with your services that you're receiving, as well as with your support coordinator. On the very rare occasion that you're not happy with any of those things, it's important for you to know that you can use your voice, that you can tell our social services staff, that you can tell an instructor, I'm not happy with this service, or I'm not happy with this service provider, or I'm not happy with my support coordinator, so that we can make sure that we find a way for you to be happy in all of those things, because your happiness is very important to all of us. Do I know the number if I am dissatisfied with my services? The agency consumer complaint number is 1-888-419-3455. If you're not satisfied with any of those services, that's certainly a number that you can use to contact them and let them know that you're not happy. However, more accessible to you and easier for you to approach are your instructors or the staff at your group home or your family at home. Use that big voice that we always talk about and speak up, because if you're not happy, we need to know about it. Again, we can't fix it if we don't know you're not happy, right? So use your big voice. That's what it's there for. Am I respected? At the WOW Center, we work very, very hard to make sure that you know that you are respected. You know that you are someone worthy and deserving of respect. Not just our respect, but society's respect, our community's respect. And that's something that we pride ourselves in pushing for. And that's something that we at the WOW Center, all of us, work very hard to achieve. We work very hard to make sure that the community at large is respecting you in the way that you should be respected. If you ever feel that you are not being respected, then again, you need to speak up, use your big voice. Let us know how you feel that you're not being respected. But I know that all of my fellow instructors, all of your instructors, all of the staff that surrounds you is put there in order to ensure that you are respected. So let us know. Let's hear from you. My daily life and work. Can I choose my day activities? Yes, of course. Life is full of choices. From the moment that we wake up, we choose what we're going to do with our day. How are we going to spend our day? Am I going to wash my face first or brush my teeth first? It can come down to those little choices, right? Of course, you're able to choose your daily activities. For all of us, there are choices in our day. There are things that we need to do daily. For instance, we need to focus on our hygiene daily. We need to maybe go to work daily. Maybe we need to go to the WOW Center daily when the WOW Center is operational. Maybe we need to sit down in front of a computer and have our virtual classes daily. But these are all things that are designed to help you. So, yes, you can choose your daily activities. Make sure that you're making wise choices, that you're putting your time into the things that are going to develop you physically, mentally, and spiritually as well. Am I happy with the WOW Center? I hope that you are. I know that all of my fellow instructors and all of the staff at the WOW Center hopes that you are, because your happiness at the WOW Center is our goal. Our personal daily goal is to make sure that you are happy there. So again, it's important to use your big voice. If you know you could be happier if something was going on, then let us know about it and maybe we can make that happen, right? So that we can ensure that you continue to be happy. We're always looking for ways to improve, and we're always looking for ways to make sure that you are happy in your day-to-day life. Do I want to do the activities that I do during the day? That's an important question. Again, look at where you're putting your time in your day-to-day activities. Make it intentional. Make sure that you are doing things that really do satisfy you, that really are helping you grow, that really are bringing you maximum happiness, right? Having said that, there are activities we all have to do day to day that maybe sometimes we're not very keen on, maybe some days you wake up and you're a little tired and you're not sure if you want to go to work, or you're not sure if you want to go to the WOW Center. But push yourself through that. That kind of, I don't know if today, because usually what we see is when you guys come in the morning, sometimes you're a little sluggish and you're tired and you're sleepy and, maybe you haven't had your breakfast yet. Then by the time we all head outside and the music is on, we all become engaged and then we're happy, right? So sometimes it's important to push yourself through that to get to enjoying an activity. But I hope that you are generally happy with the activities that you are participating in your day-to-day life. If you find that there's an activity that you're not particularly happy in your day-to-day life, speak up. Let us know. We don't know if you don't tell us. Do I want a job in the community? One of the things we are very proud of at WOW is that we're able to help individuals find jobs and job opportunities in the community. I know that your supported employment team is constantly looking for places where you can work. So if a job is something that you want but don't yet have, you can reach out to Julie or Melissa or Renee or any of your staff members so that we can pass on that information and we can make sure that someone speaks to you about the possibility of having a job in the community. Can I choose to work? Of course you can. You can choose to work if you like. And that's not a decision that we take lightly at the WOW Center. We discuss this with many people on the road to trying to find the best fit, the best job for you. So if working is something you want to do, again, use your big voice, let us know. Am I happy with my job? I love nothing more than to see you guys being proud of the work that you do. I love hearing, for instance, from Eric, how happy he is at the Gap, or I love hearing from Roy how happy he is at Publix, or Rudy, or I love hearing from Jerome how happy he is at Baptist Hospital, and Anna Maria. So if you're happy with your job, let me know, because I really get a kick out of hearing what you do and what makes you proud of yourself. So if you're happy with your job, that's a good question to ask yourself, because sometimes we all need a little bit of a reminder. Man, I really am happy with my job, right? My home. Do I choose where I want to live? Yes, the choice of where you want to live is ultimately yours. Again, it's a choice that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's a choice that should be discussed amongst families, with social services, but these are choices that you do have. As I said, though, it's a choice that shouldn't be taken lightly, and it's something that requires the discussion and involvement of a team of people to help you find the place where you will be happiest. Am I happy where I live? You know, right now, especially that we're all having to stay in our homes because we are in a time of quarantine and social distancing, it's important to take responsibility for our own happiness, right? So I hope that you're happy where you live. And I know that, you know, sometimes things happen wherever we live, but we can all work towards making ourselves happier in every respect of our lives. For instance, I know in my own home, I've had a to-do list for a long time. So now that I've got a lot of time at home, I'm putting some of my energy into making those changes so that I can be even happier where I live, right? Even if you are happy, there's always room for improvement. So don't just sit back. You know, we might as well put the work in to improve our own situation and our own surroundings, right? Maybe you want to make a decorative change to your room, who knows? But work towards making yourself happy. Your happiness is your responsibility. So put some work into it. Am I happy with the services and supports that I receive at home? Most of us live in homes where the people that surround us work really hard to make sure that we are happy, right? So use that to your advantage. Use your big voice. Is there room for improvement? Is there something that I can change so that I can be even happier? You have to voice that, okay? Because yes, your services and your supports that you're receiving at home are overseen by other people, but that's the extent of their involvement, right? They're going to work to make you happy. So use your big voice. Let us know. Let us know what makes you happy so we could do more of it. Let us know what doesn't make you happy so we could do less of it. But the important thread through all of these week 1 special topics is you and your voice. So speak up, use that voice, and let us know what you want. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Make sure lots of hand washing, lots of sanitizing, and maintain that social distancing so that we could all stay healthy and we can all see each other again very, very soon. Hi everyone, I hope you're having a nice day. I'm going to be reviewing your schedule for Thursday, April 2nd. So, to start with, we will, as usual, have Brain Smart Start and Meditation Therapy. Following that, you guys are going to be having your music therapy class. Then we're going to take a break. After the break, you get to start moving and shaking with Mo in sports. And we're working very hard to make sure that we stay in motion, that we get up and we get those arms and legs moving and we get exercising done. Then we're going to be having story time. After story time, you'll have lunch. And then after lunch, you'll have life and work skills with Barbara. After life and work skills, we are going to review our special topics. And then we're going to review our schedule for the day after. I hope you have a good night. I hope you enjoyed all your lessons today. And we will chat soon when we call you guys to check on your goals. Have a good day. Bye.